We're continuing our series of interviews with veterans of World War II, and we're pleased to have with us today Mr. Bill Ford, who is the Decatur County Veterans Records.
I'm assistant to the Decatur County Veteran Service Officer.
All right. So Bill told you what he is. Anyway, Bill's going to talk to us today about his recollections of World War II and most any other interesting items he has to share with us. So Bill, if you'll go ahead and talk to us, we'll be very pleased to hear what you have to say.
Like I said, I remember when I was at Pearl Harbor. And as it worked out, when John Green and I went in service together, went through boot camp together. Of course, after boot camp and everything, John, he went east and I went west. And John seen a lot more than Bill did, that's for sure. But I kind of kept a diary as, the moves we made. And I took boot training at Great Lakes, Illinois. Naval Station there at Great Lakes. From there we went on to San Diego, started by San Diego, California. We was assigned to amphibious force. That kind of scared me to start with. But, we took training here at San Diego, up Fort Pendleton in California, and on up to Fort Ord. That's Camp Pendleton and Fort Ord. One was Marine base, the other was an Army base. And then after that, we was shipped overseas. And pretty much the route we took, never did get to Pearl Harbor. After hearing about it, never ever got to Pearl Harbor. And we put aboard a Dutch transport in San Francisco, and we went by transport to New Caledonia. That was a French settlement in New. That was the first port we made. Next was San Luis Obispo and the New Hebrides, and on up to Guadalcanal. Was there at Guadalcanal.
Would this be in early 1942, or would it be
43?
43.
Let's see, we got to left the States on October 2nd, 43. Of course, in the process, we crossed the equator. That's something you don't forget about. They really put you through an initiation, and you're what they call a polywog going over. But after you get the initiation, you're called a shellback, and then you can dish out the initiation the next time around. We had a unit of nurses aboard this transport, and buddy, they didn't let up 1 inch on that. And our base was at Florida Island, which was across from Guadalcanal. This is in October 43. And we was taking training there and everything. Learning how to operate the LCMs and LCVPs and amphibious force. I was what they call an engineer. The LCM has sometimes a 4-man, most of the time a 3-man crew. Got a coxswain, engineer, and deckhand. I was the engineer. And the engineer was responsible for 2 Grand Marine diesel engines aboard that thing.
Now this was an LCM.
LCM, landing craft mechanized. It'd carry a tank or troops or supplies to the beach.
That one I don't remember. Remember the other kind, but that one
I remember. It's the one that's got a ramp in the front that drops down and the tank goes up.
Okay.
It was pretty good duty, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, Florida Island, we took training. After a while, let's see, it's in it must have been January 44. The USS President Adams from APA came in there, and we was assigned aboard the President Adams for more training. They was due to go into dry dock in Wellington, New Zealand. So we went to Wellington, New Zealand. And after everything is all said and done, Wellington, New Zealand is about as far away you can get from Greensburg at that time. So we went down there and they took care of the ship and put it in dry dock, and all hands was over the side to scrape the bottom and paint it. And what repairs needed to be made at that time. And then went on back. We come back to Florida Island, and we got aboard we was there for a while and got aboard LSD, what they call it, landing ship dock. It had a ramp on the stern, and they'd lower that ramp and pump the ballast full of water, and it would sink down, and you drive the LCMs in there, and they'd set, and then they'd close the gate, pump it out, and you was loaded.
Probably these, as far as I know, these specialized vehicles were really
First time around.
And actually the war
Higgins is the one that invented all of them.
They had not been under any development prior to the war.
Didn't have a use for them, so.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing like that that are around.
That says something about our technology in a hurry, doesn't it?
You bet you. Higgins in New Orleans is the one that developed all that. Well, when they quit, it was the USS Epping Force, which was the dry dock ship. And we went for the invasion of the Admiralty Islands, the Manus Islands, where we made our landing. And we went in, and when we went in, we stayed. This boat pool, established a boat pool. And our duty was to load, unload the fleet as it come in, service the fleet. And it turned out to be pretty good duty because stationed there for over a year. That was really the only action I seen as far as going into Manus Island. Don't compare with anything like Melton had. And one thing that really happened while we was at Manus Island, we was working out of the ammunition depot, and we was sitting on the beach, ramped down, they was loading us, and the deckhand and I was sitting on the stern of the LCM, and we looked down the bay, and there was a plane going down there. Thought that was kind of unusual at that time, but they didn't think anything about it at the time. And we thought it was unusual, but they didn't think much about it. But looking back, that might have been one of the first kamikazes that they ever had, because in a little while the USS Mount Hood blew up, ammunition ship. No survivors. The only survivors were the working parties on the beach. And we lost 29 guys at that time.
It could have been that.
That was really tragic. Oh, well, as a Manus, I mean, it's the little things that happened way back when. If they didn't happen, well, a lot of things wouldn't happen now, that's for sure. Well, 7th and 3rd Fleet was building up for the invasion of the Philippines, and the USS Bismarck Sea came in there, and that's the ship that James Edgar Land was on. And he made one attempt to contact me, sure he knew I was there. And we missed contact the first time. The second time we made contact. And we got together and had a recreation island across the bay. And we got together. That was before the invasion of the Philippines. And that was the last guy I'd ever seen alive. in Greensburg. And,
Were you attached with any of the troops that would eventually be under MacArthur's command?
under MacArthur.
MacArthur, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, I wasn't on any of the invasions or anything like that. We was land-based at Manus Island for about a year. Our basic duty was loading and unloading the fleet as it came in and left. Manus Island had the biggest harbor in that area, and it could accommodate the 7th and 3rd Fleet without any problem.
What are some of your responsibilities as far as your position as the one who keeps the records of the Decatur County veterans?
Well, what I do is anything military or anything that shows up in the paper, we take 3 papers, Greensburg, Star, and the Columbus paper. And anything that's military we grab. And it just mushrooms, goes and goes and goes.
I know you said you have the information of many files and volumes of.
One of the best books. Of course, this is what led to all of it. That's the Jim Jagger Land book. We put it in books. Jim Jagger Land. That's his notes. He wrote my book on his own. That's this distinguished Flying Cross, Purple Heart, Good Conduct, American Theater, Asiatic Pacific, Victory Medal, Philippine Liberation, Presidential Unit Citation, and 3 stars in the Philippine Liberation. That's what the book's amount to. Anything military they got, well, we sugar in. Just a lot of military stuff. That's one of 138.
Were you aware very much of what the situation was in Japan while your military operations were underway?
Not really. I know when they dropped a bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we was glad that happened, I'll tell you. And I was born and raised a Republican, but I think Harry Truman was #1 in my book. Because, I mean, like ours, where we were stationed, I mean, if it wasn't for that, I mean, we wouldn't be here. There wasn't any question about that.
You would have been involved in the invasion possibly if
Why sure we would have been. We've been one of the first ones that pulled out.
That would have made a big difference.
Because that's why I think a lot of Harry Truman, I'll tell you.
Well, when did you realize that your military service was about to end and you might find your way back here to Greensburg?
Well, I mean, there at Manus we had real good duties for us. We had to maintain these boats and everything in order to supply the fleet when they came in. And there was a place called, what we called Up the River. The Manus and Los Negros Islands, there was a channel, and then there was a bay up there where we kept all the LCMs up there and kept them in running condition, ready to go. And that was our duty. That was good that he had that up there. And the morning we'd leave from our base and spend the day at up the river and then come back at night and we had a boat that took us up there. And I mean, you get everything caught up and you got a lot of leisure time and everything. That's where I got to be a good harp player, I'll tell you. Harp's a big thing up there. there to relax and everything. Pretty good.
And how did you manage to get back to Greensburg? This point 4 here. What do you remember about your return home and your leaving the service and the other points you're readjusting to civilian life?
We come back to San Francisco and then we had a 30-day leave to go home. And me and a guy from Michigan, we kind of run together and we come back cross country on the train. We didn't fly, it's on the train back then. And come home for 30-day leave, and then I went back to Great Lakes and was in what they call OGU, outgoing unit. And later on he was assigned to base in California, Camp Pendleton, no, not Camp Pendleton, but we went back to California and then was there about a month, maybe, had enough points to come home, so it was discharged.
This has been 45?
January 46.
46, okay. But when you found out about those circumstances about the end of the war, you realized this would be a much shorter war than it would have been if the bomb hadn't been available.
We might have still been fighting that now.
World War II was a war that the people were personally involved with.
We didn't have any choice.
Yeah. Well, now we have these wars all over the place, and most of us back here are never directly affected by them.
Go back during World War II, we had 2 secret weapons.
Yes.
We had patriotism at
Yes.
110%.
Yes.
And they had a thing called Yankee ingenuity. If you didn't have it, you made it. If you had it, and it got broke, you fixed it, and you wore it out. They don't have them 2 things today, and that's where they got a problem.
What happened to patriotism?
I don't know.
I'm not even sure it's discussed to any great length anymore.
Well, there's no question our generation is what they call the greatest generation. There's no question in my mind about that. But this generation can be the greatest generation if they meet the challenge when it comes. And buddy, it's going to be coming one of these days.
We were taught patriotism.
Yeah.
I mean, you learned it in your home, I learned it in mine. Our fathers had been in World War I.
Yeah.
They didn't like it. They didn't want to see it happen again. We were taught.
We come up through some tough
We
times.
sure
What we
did.
thought was tough, but looking back, it was
There's nothing.
best time of our life.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. There's a quality about that.
That's it.
Well, I think, it's very evident that probably at least 90% of the American people are able to continue their lives as they are wanting to do, even though we're conducting a war several thousand miles away. Now we don't feel it so personally, maybe, as we
Get
did
it
then.
on TV just a minute, it happens.
Yeah. This is kind of like watching a show somewhere else. But of course, those people who have family members in those areas are going to be affected a lot more than the rest of us. But it seems like it's such a remote sort of thing.
Well, in World War II, everybody had somebody somewhere.
Right.
I mean, this was...
He was fighting on 2 fronts,
Sure,
all over
and-
the world war.
Everybody was involved, and now you don't have that. And you're never going to have that kind of patriotism because we were attacked. We were wronged. We were not the aggressor.
I think the effort on the home front was extremely important. I mean, it's probably the basic.
If it wasn't for the home front, it wouldn't have been a shot fired out there.
No. What was the sleeping giant comment made by one of the
That will
Japanese
sleeping
names?
giant.
Yeah.
They went into, military production and everything, and produced military material like never been produced before. And the United States was the arsenal of democracy, that's what it was.
Is this a condition that we can't possibly get ourselves into anymore? Can we not
It's a whole
anymore
different,
feel 100%?
whole different world. They can't possibly look at it the way we did, because they didn't come up through what we did. And we can't look at it from their point of view, because we aren't in their position, so.